Today, we're going to see if the highly anticipated Borderlands 3 is actually worth your precious free time. Let me say before I begin that I have played Borderlands, Borderlands 2, and Borderlands, the pre-sequel, and I was a fan of all three. Though I've got to admit I didn't make it all the way through the pre-sequel, and I do normally like to complete a game. Borderlands 3 is more of the same of the first three games, and that's both a good and a bad thing. Let's take a look at the basics. Just like in the other titles, you have a choice of Vault Hunter, and just as in each title before, each of your four choices has their ups and downs. I will say that in each previous game, I gave each class a try, but in this one, I played only the Beastmaster. The other characters really didn't appeal to me at all, and after I made it through the main storyline, I didn't really want to go back and do it all again, so none of the other character classes got a shake. Okay, let's start things off on the good side. In this edition of the game, they changed the guns around, and that was a big positive. It's not that they were necessarily more guns or fewer weapons to be had, but that they were more specific ones. Each manufacturer this time around means certain stuff. One maker's weapons all swap between different firing modes. Another maker's guns all come with a shield built in for you to use. And still another will never need to be reloaded, though it will overheat every now and then. I will say though, there's a special one that you can find that never needs to be reloaded, never overheats, and never runs out of ammo. How sweet is that? The guns all sound different and do cool things, and that is very cool for an element of a game bowing down to the RNG. Also on the plus side is the addition of the legendaries on the map. What I mean by that is, if an enemy drops a legendary item, not only will it be in front of you with a beam of light sticking out of it, but it will also show up on your map as a star. Also tying into the map is your ability to drop a marker for people in your party, and the newly added ability to hot swap between current missions. That's the one I personally enjoyed the most. It's very nice to just tap on the D-pad and swap my current task. Now, we move on to the bad. First of all, there really isn't anything new. Same type of fights, same type of enemies, same type of stuff to unlock, same idea behind the story, and the same humor behind that story. It's really Borderlands 2.5 if you ask me. So if you love the first three, you're probably gonna love this one. For me, however, it got a bit grindy. I will give a good amount of credit for the side missions though. They were almost like mini main missions. Instead of your standard hunt and gather side missions, these side missions had little independent stories and characters that made them different. Problem was they were kinda meh for me after a bit, because in the mix of the main being more of the same stuff, the side missions started just to blur in. Which is too bad, because a few of them were really different and should have stood out. They just didn't when they were tucked into so much of the same around them. Something else that's probably an issue just for me, and perhaps a handful of other people, is that I play solo. Borderlands 3 is probably a lot better with a handful of friends, especially with the new loot system that they've included. It's very playable solo, just not much of an upgrade from the previous titles. With the ability to play split screen in the living room or together over the interwebs, multiplayer has got to be a hoot. It's just not something yours truly coordinates enough with others to do enough to make it through the entire title. One more thing that I'm going to put on the minus side is the humor overall. I enjoy a good bad joke, and I enjoy some awful humor as well. But most of this game that was intended to be funny did not entertain me at all. I'm torn between whether that the humor is being bad or that I'm falling too far out of the demographic to be in on what are supposed to be jokes. I mean, I got them, understood that they were supposed to be jokes. They just didn't entertain me. There is some endgame to be had as well. A whole bunch of it. But I can't tell you about it because as soon as I finish the story, I considered the game finished. I just wanted to see whether or not they were going to set up for a sequel or not. Here's the quick breakdown. Lengthwise, Borderlands 3 is a decently long game. You can play it again and again if you choose, by yourself or with other people. Honestly, the only reason it doesn't have a 5 here for me is because I found no reason to run through the campaign more than once. And I played none of the endgame content. And that's because the story was just okay. Villains were not great, and jokes sometimes made me cringe. The game plays well, and a number of mechanics have been added this time around to make it smoother and much more player-friendly. Picture's what you expect, and sound especially stands out this time around with the different effects for all the gun types. As far as fun goes, however, this game should be a lot more fun than it was. I have had a whole lot more fun playing the previous titles in this series than I did in this one. I would love to take the mechanics added to this game and put them back in Borderlands 2. Let me end this all by saying I've enjoyed the Borderlands games over the years and will most likely buy the next one that comes out and give it a shot. I'm just not logging the hours and hours of gameplay finding and doing all the stuff I'm supposed to with this one that I did in the ones before it.